Good morning and good day. Thank y'all for being here and welcome to Centize Unity Through Hypnosis. Today is going to be a fun day. I'm going to talk about some of the sessions I have had and the experiences people have with a QHHT session. Like I've said before, every session is different. Nobody should ever expect to have the same experience as someone else. And it's incredible to see exactly how different they are. So, the first one I want to talk about, I had this wonderful young lady come see me, full of anxiety, very anxious. And I could tell when she walked in that she had a lot going on emotionally. And she could barely look me in the eyes. She was very, very, very nervous. And I did my best to make her comfortable and make it a safe environment, and that worked. She got more relaxed, more comfortable. After about 2 hours of talking, it was time to put her under through hypnosis. And she went under beautifully, but because she had so much anxiety and so much emotional and mental trauma, her subconscious was putting her in a safe space. So what we like to call it is the void or the black space, right? I know it sounds scary, but it's really not, because your SC will take you everywhere you need to go. Exactly where you need to go when you go under. So she was so anxious, they put her in a safe space in the void, and I asked her how she felt while she was there. And she felt like she was floating. She felt very safe and very warm and full of love. And I was like, fantastic. And then all of a sudden, she sees a stack of luggage floating out in front of her. And I thought this was interesting because she was very confused. And again, I had never had anyone experience this before, but she said there was a pile of luggage with a triangle, a spinning triangle on top. And I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Are you able to move closer to the pile of luggage and touch the triangle? And she says, okay, I'll try. So she moves closer. She touches the triangle and the triangle falls away. She goes, oh. And I said, what? What happened? Because remember, I can't see anything. And she says, the triangle fell over and disappeared. And when it did, the luggage fell over, but it was no longer piled on top of each other. It was just, it just fell over. And as she was talking about this luggage, she soon started to change from using the word luggage to baggage. And then everything just started to click for her because of all of the mental and emotional trauma that she had in her life. She was carrying all of this baggage with her, and it was just weighing her down, basically. So as she's talking about the luggage, now referred to as baggage, it's starting to click in her head on what this is all signifying. So the baggage is everything she's carrying around, and as she's talking about it, she starts crying. And she just keeps crying and crying and crying. And she sat there for about 30 minutes and just cried. And I just supported her and cheered her on. And I said, let it go. You're doing wonderful. Just release it. Oftentimes in situations like this, crying is an excellent way for the body to release that stored trauma, release that stored pain, any of it. It has to come out one way. And a lot of times it is through tears. And 30 minutes she lay there and just cried and cried and cried. And it was so beautiful, so beautiful. And I could just see the weight just coming off of her. And when we finished, I brought her back and she opened her eyes and she had the biggest smile on her face. And she just kept saying, "Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you." And I said, "Sweetheart, this wasn't me. I simply opened the door and I let you in. You choose to walk through that door. You choose to do the healing on your own." And she did it. She was full of joy. She said she felt lighter. Even when she stood up, she said that she could feel so much weight just off of her shoulders, and she couldn't believe what that session had done for her. And her SC came through beautifully at the end. And I told her, I said, "Here's your recording." I said, "You keep listening to this for 6 months, and I promise things will continue to get better." And they have. She's so much lighter, so much brighter. She has joy in her life. She's not as anxious as she used to be. And it's everything's a work in progress or work in process, however you say it, tomato, tomato. But no edits here, as you can tell. um, we're keeping it real. But yeah, she was amazing. And it brought me so much joy to know that when she came back, she felt amazing and left with a smile on her face. And that's one of the big things is a lot of people, when they come in, I can tell, I can see the heaviness in their eyes. I can see it on their face and the way they carry themselves. And when they leave, it's like a complete transformation. And it's all about getting in touch with your higher self. It's amazing. I love it. So that's just one experience that has stuck out in my head for emotional traumas and mental traumas. Now, I had another girl come in. She was a younger girl, I would say in her 30s. She was fascinating beyond belief. The way she carried herself, the way she spoke, I was like, "You are so much more connected than you can even imagine." And she showed up her authentic self. It was beautiful. We had a conversation for 2 hours, and I was fascinated by her. I didn't have to do any talking. I listened to her tell me her life story, tell me her beliefs, and I was just in awe of her realness. But she spoke as if she was from another time. Like she spoke like she was very ancient, but she was only in her 30s. I couldn't even I couldn't I couldn't understand at the time when we were having our conversation why she felt so old, like a very, very, very old soul. Well, found out why. So it's time for the hypnosis part. I put her under, and immediately she recognizes where we're at. This doesn't happen, not very often. People don't recognize where we're at, but she recognizes where we're at. And where we landed was in Petra, Jordan. And I asked her, I said, "Have you been to Petra before?" She says, "No, never, but I recognize it." And I said, "Okay." And she's describing it to me because that's the whole thing. You got to describe the scene. She's describing it and she's seeing these, she called them mercenaries. And she's seeing them and she's like, "I have to hide. I have to hide." I said, "Why?" "Because these people, they'll get me. I have to hide." I said, "Okay." I said, "Are you going to go inside of this building?" Because I don't know if you know what, if you look up Petra, it looks like like a giant city built into a stone mountain, and you can actually go inside and it's all stone. And she says, I'm sneaking in now. I see a hole in the wall behind this curtain. I'm going to go in it." So she crawls in this hole, and it's a tiny crawl space, she says. And in the hole, there's another hole that goes down into the ground, and there's a ladder. And she's like, "Should I keep going?" I was like, "Sure." She goes down this ladder and it goes into this secret room. And in this room is a like a carved out table in the wall. There's a sword, like a small sword on the ground, and a scroll. And I asked her, I said, "What do you have on?" She says, "Well, I have rope. I have like a robe on with a rope tied around my belt, around my waist." I said, "Okay." She goes, I said, "Can you read what's on the scroll?" And she opens it up. She says, "No, no, I can't make it out." And then she kept looking at it. She goes, "I think it's Hebrew." And I said, "Okay." And I said, "Well, did you see anybody inside the building?" She said, "No, it's empty. The people are all gone." And I said, "Okay." I said, "Why don't you put the sword in your belt and put the scroll in your belt, and we'll try to go back to when there were still people there and see if we can get anybody to read the scroll for us." And she said, "Okay." So we did. I moved her back before the mercenaries were there. There were so many people there. She crawls back out of the hole and she's walking down this hallway and she sees this room. And inside this room is this man, she says, sitting at this wooden desk. And this room is full of scrolls. And she walks in and immediately he says to her, "Who are you and what are you doing here?" She said she could tell he knew that she wasn't from that area. And she calmly told him that she found a scroll and wanted to know if he could read it for her. And he said, "Okay." And she hands it to him. He opens it up and it says, Logos will return. Logos will return. And I was like, "What is Logos?" And the guy said, "It's God. God will return." I was like, "Huh, interesting." So he asked her, as soon as he read it, he asked her, "Where did you get this?" And she said she just found it. She didn't want to tell him any details. And so then we had to leave, right? She took it with her and we left and we moved forward to another lifetime and another lifetime. And it was time to bring her subconscious forward. Her subconscious comes forward beautifully. And I asked the subconscious, I said, "Can you tell us what the reason was for taking her to Petra, Jordan, to that lifetime?" Because we couldn't figure it out while we were there. And the SE said, "Absolutely. At that time, she was tasked, she was a he at that time. She was tasked by Jesus, with Jesus, to hide the dead, the 9 Dead Sea Scrolls. 9 Dead Sea Scrolls. I was like, what? And then later was tasked by Jesus to find the 9 Dead Sea Scrolls so the first Bible could be written. But only 7 were ever found. Not 9, only 7. So, what does this tell you about the Bible? It's missing 2 important pieces. But I mean, on top of that, it's been rewritten over and over and over and over again and reinterpreted over and over and over again. But I was so blown away, and it made absolute sense when we finished talking with the SC and she woke up and I told her what her SC said. She remembered bits and pieces, but not everything. And she wasn't surprised. She said she felt like she knew that already. which I thought was incredible. And I told her, I said, I feel like you are from another time, and this explains it. So it was absolutely fascinating. And she's had multiple other instances where she's just so connected that when, she's trying to go one direction, as our bodies do this, right? When you try to go down one path and you're not listening to your body and you're just seeing the signs like you probably shouldn't go down this path, but you continue to go down it anyways because that's what your mind wants you to do. So you do it, and then you end up either in a bad car accident or you end up, falling off a ladder, whatever. Something happens, break a leg, something that keeps you from moving forward in that direction. Everything that happens is trying to get you to see that you're not heading in the right direction and that you need to change paths. And this happened with her several times. So this session for her was an eye opener as to why she feels so old, but why she has all of this knowledge that she doesn't seem to find other people that have. She can have impactful and profound conversations with every single person she meets, but not often do they understand because she is so connected and so awakened. It was just beautiful, just beautiful. And as you can see, her session was completely different than the first one with the luggage. So then I had this other session come in. This lady, oh my gosh, a joy, bundle of joy. So vibrant, so authentic. When she walked in, I was like, are we sure you need a session? She was just so energized and so happy, so much joy. And I loved it. I wanted to spend every minute with her. Found out has a lot of things wrong, in her body. Basically allergic to everything, water, the sun, grass, wheat, everything, everything. She's got to be very careful what she puts on her skin, what she eats, like all these allergies, allergic to cats, allergic to dogs, all this. And so I put her under. She went on. She went in so fast and so smooth. It was so funny because some people when they go under and they get into a past life, they will become very quiet and they will be very shallow when they speak. And it's almost like you can't hear them. And I have to get closer to them just so I can hear what they're saying. And then you get some people that go into their sessions, into their past lives, and they just fully embody the character in that past life. I mean, to a T. And that is what happened with this lady. It was hilarious. I have not laughed as hard as I did in a session than I did with this young lady. It was so fun, so much fun. The first past life we go into, she's an 8-year-old little boy. And the way she described the scene, it was like I was watching it play out. It was so funny, but she was right in as her 8-year-old little boy self. She was hiding in a field from her mom, supposed to be feeding the animals, and just totally talking like an 8-year-old boy. It's like, I'm hiding in this field. Mom wants me to go feed the animals, but I don't really want to go feed the animals because I don't like the animals. I don't really want to be around them. I would rather just go with my dad, but he says I'm too young. I'm not big enough. I can't go with him. Mom makes me do chores around the house. I just want to do them, so I'm just hiding in the field. And I was just cracking up, and it just continued on from there. every single past life with this lady was just like that. And the two after were, again, she was men, adult men at those times. But all of these past lives showed her the amount of unconditional love that she has received in past lives. Unconditional. So much love, a love that she has yet to experience today. And when her SC came forward, I asked her, I said, what was the purpose of showing her all of these lives? Well, the reason she has so many allergies and so much wrong is because she's been trying to escape since birth. And when the soul comes into a body, right? It's it will oftentimes it can try to escape. And if the soul doesn't mesh with the body or doesn't like the body. Now remember, when we come in, we come in with amnesia, so we don't remember, right? So as a young child, she was just trying to leave. She was just trying to exit. She didn't like it here. It was too hard. Like it was just too much. She was just trying to exit. She wasn't connecting with her entire body. So she always felt like she had so oftentimes ADHD, where people feel erratic, like they can't focus on one thing. They gotta do this, do this, do this, do this, this. It's because they're absorbing too much energy. They're taking on too much energy, more than their own. And that's what she was doing. So her body was like, because her soul had been trying to exit, her body was rejecting, right? So what this session did was get her connected to her body as one and get her connected to her higher self so she could fully understand why she needed to be in this body for this lifetime. And her SC was just like her. Hilarious. We laughed so hard the entire time when I was talking to the SC. I've never talked to a subconscious and laughed as hard as I did with this one. I told this SC, I said, listen, I said, when my own body gives out in this lifetime and I wake up, I said, come find me. She goes, oh, honey, you are already on the list. She's like, we're going to get in so much trouble. It's going to be so much fun. She goes, you got to break the rules every now and then. It was so funny. I loved it. Oh, it was my favorite one. But the one thing about this young lady is she was a jokester. She loved to have fun. She loved pranks, right? And I knew that this client was going to listen back to her recording, and her subconscious was telling me how they pulled a funny prank on a family member of hers. And so her big thing is that she can't have any pets, right? Because she's allergic to the hair. Well, her SC sent her a pig. She's not allergic to pigs. So she has a full size pig living in her house, and it is her baby. Its name is Jethro, which I think is absolutely adorable. And I saw pictures of this pig, and he is so cute. And the client said that it's so funny. I can look at Jethro and I know exactly what he's thinking or what he's going to do. And she's like, I don't understand why. Well, the SC told me, and it was on the recording for her to listen to, told me was because she wanted something, right? And she was allergic to everything. So they sent her a pig, and the pig is the same essence as the client. So basically, they are one and the same. And the best part is her family members have to put up with the pig because the pig and the client, that's her baby. So it's in the house with her. And so every time it throws a temper tantrum, everybody knows the pig is throwing a temper tantrum because it's just like the client. Isn't that incredible? I love it. And I've seen it happen with so many people that, everything is sent our way. Everything we need in life, everything we do in life, we're always supported and we're always guided, whether you know it consciously or not, but you are. Oftentimes you'll be walking around your house, you'll be walking through your kitchen or anything, and all of a sudden you'll get an aha moment or a bright idea. That's what I like to call a download. I love those moments because that's usually when you can navigate whatever you're trying to get through a whole lot easier. And that's the beautiful thing about quantum healing is getting connected to your higher self so you can get those messages and you can understand them and you can see things a lot more clearly than you can now. Even for myself, before I even had my own session, I had a lot of healing to do and a lot of work to do. And, I sit back and I think about everything that happened prior to my own session. I felt like I was going through life with blinders on. I would get so caught up in the moment. I would get caught up in the anger and, the hate. It was nasty. And never understood why. And if I was having a bad day, I'd be like, "Oh, I need to go back to bed. I need to try the other side of the bed. Maybe my day will be better." Well, no, your day is always great. It's never a bad day. There's just lessons in everything. And that's the beauty of it. And that's what I strive to do. Even when I'm talking to my friends or family or whatever. And if somebody's having a moment and they're telling me about it, I'm really, really good at trying to figure out the positive in the situation. And I love it. It's fun. Because if you can do that, then you can't have a bad day. You'll never have a bad day because they're just learning opportunities, right? We all have them. And that's the joy of life. So, those are just a couple sessions that I've had that have really been impactful. I've had several others that have been impactful and profound. But I hope to have a couple clients on to speak about their own journeys so you can get a firsthand experience because it is incredible. It is incredible. But I thank you all so much for listening. I truly appreciate it. This is a joy for me, and I love having people that just want to communicate and get to know more and move forward in life because this life is nothing but love, joy, and peace. And that's what we all are trying to get back to. We don't need all this hate and this separation because we're all one. We're all connected. We're all a piece of source. So, with that, my friends, I will leave you with that. And I hope you have a blessed day with much love and much thanks.